Hey, it's Ross Payton with, Ludonarrative Dissidents, not role-playing public radio, at least today. Thank you to everybody who is going to be listening to this through our podcast feed, or will be watching this in a second because we just went live. This is our live stream. We don't prep for these, so
This is all going to be from the hip. So if one of us starts going off about the Trilateral Commission, you'll know what's in our heart.
Our last one was on Choose Your Own Adventures, which was a lot of fun. But Greg, you're like, I got this, and I'm really curious about this.
All right, so here's the thing. I have written a number of superhero games. Well, I've written like one superhero game with a number of settings, a couple other little systems, but they're nothing meaningful. But Wild Talents, as currently constructed, is very much a simulation engine. Physics. It runs on physics, and it's saying, okay, if you have this much, you can shoot this many meters with your heat vision, unless you take this power up that makes your heat vision shoot farther. And that's fine. That's fine for what it is, but it's done. And I'm like, I find myself in the era of Marvel movies wanting something that's a little less like a little less like a minis war game, and a little more of a, goofy, okay, and just this one time, the Human Torch can create giant smoke rings to contain people. So... yeah, less math, more vibes. Thank you for that. We've only got an hour, so yes.
I mean, have you looked at that's fate? At least that's what it reads to me. Because with fate points, you can I spend a fate point to perform a stunt that I can't normally do.
Well, the idea I had.
Okay.
Let me get my cool ass.
Ooh. If you want to send me a JPEG or anything, I can throw it up on the screen too.
Oh, so, no, this is all just my chicken scratch handwriting.
Yeah.
So the idea I had in Wild Talents, you build your power, and it, does it attack? Does it defend? Is it otherwise useful? And if it's none of those things, it's just like, it's free, because it doesn't help you in any conceivable way. My power is that my nose runs when I'm dead. Okay. But so the idea I had for this is that you would still have powers that are mostly that, but you would also set up a set of counters. Oh, wait, no, I'm going to call them tokens, because counter means, can mean several things, but a token only means one thing. So what awkwardness. So I'm like, okay, so you have usefulness tokens, which are one color or shape, attack tokens, which are, another, defense tokens. The GM, depending on how they want, on the setup of the individual session, loads the bag. And you would need some constraints on, okay, you have to put in, at least 3 of each token, and you have to have at least this many tokens per player. But if the bag empties out, it's like, okay, y'all, you're done. The kitchen's closed. But also that when you can use your power without a token. And, it's like, okay, I got heat vision, zap, zap, zap. But it's like, okay, if I do heat vision and I spend an attack token, I can add another target, or I can add more damage. Or I can, if I only have a useful power, that, you know, oh, I can make I can make people cough and sneeze. That's barely useful. But it's like, okay, if I spend a defense token just this one time, by spending the token, I can use it defensively. I can make him sneeze right before he fires his gun.
Okay.
Or, you know, if I have a defense power, I can spend a defense token to jump in front of someone else's attack if it's plausible, right? So now you're getting these different kinds of tokens. But moreover, and you know, you can spend them individually to do medium level cool stuff.
Sure.
But if you spend 2 tokens, you get a really good. So it's like 2 attack tokens. Okay, now in addition to doing your normal whatever, you put a condition on the person. You know, you've knocked them back, or you've stunned them, or they're on fire. If you spend, you know, you could set it up that it's like, okay, whatever condition or conditions you have on yourself, they go off if you spend 2 defense tokens. You're knocked out, you're paralyzed, you're turned to stone, whatever, 2 defense tokens, I'm out. And then if you get, you know, 3 attack tokens, it's like, I'm going to use my attack target, my attack power, and it's going to hit, and it's going to do damage no matter how many defenses you've got. If you've got 3 useful tokens, it's like, I can spend 3 useful tokens at any time to reroll any roll. And the one I wrote up this very morning is, okay, if you've got 1 of each, you've got, you know, the spread. Out of combat, you can spend these 3 tokens, find a rationale for your power overcoming a plot hassle. And this is inspired in some ways by the MCU stuff with, you know, the Infinity Gauntlet thing, and it's like, it's going to put out so much radiation, but the radiation's gamma. I was built for this. Or I mean, the thing that gets me, I'm gonna go off on the Marvel movies here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 separate movies, we see Thor get electrocuted, right? Mm-hmm. You know, he is paralyzed by electrocution despite being the god of lightning. And then in another movie, he holds open this thing that focuses the entire energy of a miniature star. And I'm like, I gotta think that even if it's not primarily producing electromagnetic radiation, a miniature star is producing more electricity than Darcy's taser. So I want this to have that thing where it doesn't make physics sense, but it makes plot sense.
Right.
Maybe not as radically. I mean, the Marvel movies, I can admit this, are cultish in their willingness to throw common sense on the altar and sacrifice it to the god of spectacle.
I mean, that's actually in line with the actual Marvel comics and big 2 superhero comics in general is my take on that. That it's, you know, who would win in a fight, Superman or this character? Well, it's whoever's writing them and wants, you know, like that's the real.
I can't believe Paste Pot Pete took down Superman, but God,
like,
the plot.
I would read that comic. Yeah, there you go. I kind of read that. That would rule.
But that's the difference really between role-playing games and comics. Comics, it's about whatever makes the spectacle, whatever makes the reader sit up and vow to buy the next issue. Role-playing games, you ask who's mightier, Thor or the Hulk. You want the numbers because that's how role-playing games work. You want to, you know there is an objective answer to that. Or at least in traditional role-playing games. And that's why I've always bounced off superheroes, I think, because it loses the mystique of what makes the comics work for me. At the same time,
I'm hoping I can thread that needle between the gaming demand for... No, man.
If anyone can, Greg, it's probably Vincent Baker, but give it a shot.
Well, I was thinking that if the 3 of us combine our powers, We
We're like
basically are.
two-thirds of a Vincent Baker. Yeah.
Yeah, we basically are
Ludonarrative just sort of
defense
assemble.
and useful if you think of it.
Yeah,
We're the
we'll
ADU.
Voltron this up. Yeah. So how many tokens are there? Let's get like specific. How many types of? Okay.
Okay, there's
just
3
put
types
that-
of tokens.
Okay, attack.
There's
defend,
just the
useful.
3. Because
Okay.
man, if you had 4 tokens, man, now, if you only had
Sure.
2 kinds of tokens, it would be very simple.
Well, you mentioned something about a bag. So is this like a bag building thing where you
a
put
little
things
bit, yeah.
okay.
The GM puts them in the bag, so you draw blind, and you don't know what kind of tokens you're gonna get. The GM can flavor the session in some as yet undefined way by stacking the bag, by saying, okay, for this one, for this session, because this is the big session where, you know, to keep riding the Marvel horse, the dead Marvel horse into the ground, you know, this is the climax of Endgame.
Yeah.
Everyone's in here. We are just going to have bottomless tokens. You know, there's 50 tokens in there for each you, and it's half attack tokens.
Okay.
So that would be your super energetic high combat one. Or if it's like, you know, yeah, this is the one where they're going to be making their heroic last stand, to switch franchises for a second. It's like they're doing their heroic last stand at Helm's Deep, and I want them to prevail, so I'm making this thing half defense tokens. Or, you know, I just want to see these guys get really creative with making their, you know, normal. Everyone just built attack and defense powers. I want to put in a bunch of useful tokens and see if they spend them to make their powers useful, where it's like, oh, normally you can't pick a lock with heat vision, but in this instance, because I've got a useful token, I'm going to get down there with a magnifying glass and do, you know, look inside the mechanics, just really try and melt out the pins without it looking like I just blasted through the door the way I normally would. So, does this make sense? Or am I just sounding crazy?
I mean, I've actually been thinking about bag building mechanics on and off for a while, trying to figure out how to do an RPG with bag building. And I know, like, in terms of like practicalities, like you just get poker chips. You can get like a poker chip set with like 4 or 5 colors, and then you have like 4 or 5 tokens type to draw from a bag. The main question is like, under what circumstances can a character draw from the bag, and what are the consequences of drawing from the bag? Because like it sounds like this is like you would do once per scene, or you wouldn't be drawing a lot of tokens.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's my inclination, because if you're drawing too often, you know, you're describing these tokens as modifiers to existing powers. So like it's something unusual. It's not the baseline. You know, if Cyclops is using his laser vision, normally he doesn't have to draw, but if he wants to say and he draws usefully, like, oh, I could use my optic blast to give myself a double jump basically, and you know, do this cool thing, or slide out of the way, or I guess that would be defend. So
whichever.
So I think that's sort of the key moment of this, is like when you draw, like the challenge for the player is like, I don't know what token I'm getting. And so I want this type of token, but I may get a totally different type. So like, how do I improvise under those circumstances? So you want it to be meaningful.
It would come down to what is your token draw condition. And you could have a bunch of them. It's like, anytime you take damage, here, buddy, have a token because you've had a rough day. It could be anytime you play off one of your disadvantages. It's like, oh, you know, I've got drunk and freaky as a character thing.
Okay, so it's kind of like how you get fate points.
Well, yeah, because you invoked fate, and I'm like, no, that works. People love fate points.
Well, those are my thoughts. James, what are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, I also have been playing around with bag building mechanics in RPGs. We play tested one in my game which is it's slightly on hiatus while I rethink it. It's Homage to Orwell. It's basically Animal Farm, Homage to Catalonia, and 1984 in one role-playing. You are funny animals. You are also the resistance against an implacable fascist force that has overtaken your country. And
James, are you okay?
I'm fine.
No, really, James, are you okay?
It's a state of the state of the world game.
Okay.
It almost worked. The thing about bag building is, as anyone who's played bag building board games know, you actually have to balance that mechanical system really, really well. What goes into the bag is coming out of the bag, and it has to come out in the right ratios in order to make the ensuing mechanics work. And that's hard. And that's where the playtest rather fell apart, because it just wasn't satisfying. The results that were coming out of the bag were not things that people could immediately use. And what I tried to do, that as I recall, and this is a few months ago, the way I tried to solve it was to kind of rather than having the tokens be directly affecting the actions, they were kind of oblique references to what you could do with them, rather than you can fire this many points of heat blast. And it was semi-success. It was mechanically, it did function, but it was not pleasing in the way that I thought it did not feel natural, and it didn't feel like an organic part of the system.
Okay.
That's not to say that it can't be done. It's just, for my particular needs, I couldn't find a way to do it. The one thing I will say is that was very much not a superhero game. That was, you are very ordinary people being put up against an implacable and horrible force,
or very ordinary horses and dogs.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I mean, let me go back to my favorite unlocked house of mechanics and root around to see if I can find something to steal. Button Men, which I've always deeply loved for its ability to, for its dice semiotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is James Ernest's Button Men.
This is James Ernest's Button Men, which, man, if I had to pin a blue ribbon on something, I'm not one of these guys who's like, this is the best of ever. I'm like, everyone has their taste, but my taste, if you put a gun to my head and said, apply this blue ribbon to a mechanic for cleanliness, probably be Button Men, because the dice you pick and roll are the statement, are your action. So let's imagine for a second that this might not be for my superhero mechanic, but let's play around with dice in a bag. And if it's a D6, it means one thing. This is the big steal from Button Men, which I ripped off for Meatbot Massacre. Very, I'd say
this one
fairly successfully.
James Ernest of Cheap Ass Games.
Yep.
All right.
Released in back in the old days of 1999, I remember James Ernest releasing Button Men, and it was everywhere. But for a bag building game, you have D4s that, let's go D6, D10, probably D20, because everybody's got some of them. And when you pull it out, it's like, oh, I got a D6. I know that's a movement die. Or, oh, I pulled a D10. Cool. I need an attack die. Or, I've got a D20. Oh, well, that's the defense die, because, it's super swingy, but it might just let me duck and cover and survive everything. And you pick how many dice you're going to roll of which type, probably with a maximum based on some kind of skill. That's the Meatbot Massacre approach, except in this case, instead of just picking which dice you're going to roll, you have to pull them. Though the problem with that, it occurs to me right just now this second, is that people can tell what they're going to get from the shape of it. Yeah. I liked the idea of having different types of dice, because someone in the chat was talking about the colorblind friend, which I definitely thought about with my attack, defend, useful tokens, because I'm like, okay, attack is white, defend is black, useful is clear. Boom, sorted.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I use poker chips, because there's numbers and patterns on them that separate them as well.
You mean that the forces of Las Vegas, whose profitability dwarfs our entire industry, somehow thought that maybe they shouldn't leave the visually impaired gambler out in the cold?
Yeah, no, they're inclusive. They want everybody inside.
Yeah.
I've not played Buttman. Yeah, that's the problem with doing.
Wait, there's a game I've played and you haven't? Damn.
There's many games.
Yeah, but did you run a campaign of it?
I didn't. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I mean, you could get away. You can get away with it. You could have the GM be like, "Okay, yeah, here, I'm going to pull a die at random and throw it at you," or you could, I don't know, you could set up some kind of device where it's like, "Okay, you turn this crank and a single die falls out."
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could,
and now you've got an accessory that you can sell to everyone who's playing.
I mean, but at that point, you could also just like have a deck of cards too. Yeah.
Tactility, man, tactility.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the bag building thing, but if you're gonna do blind draws in a bag, you have to have they all have to feel the same, and that's there's just no way around it.
That's the advantage to tokens. I mean,
yeah,
there's some way you could. There are any number of ways you could do it where, someone gets a die and they don't know what kind of die it is, but anyway,
not all dice have to be the same. Think of dragon dice. Buy loads of old dragon dice, which you can pick up pretty cheaply, I believe. And something like dice with symbols, dice with different mixtures of numbers. So 6-siders that go 1 1 1 1 10, for example.
Okay, so I think maybe let's see here. Okay, I think of a way, new real. Let's see here. What is it? I got you. Okay, 20. Okay, so here's how you do it. And you have a bag building thing where you get gotcha little capsules. So they're all the same, but you can put different things in them. So like that's how you do it. Like you could, because they're all rattling around, but you can't tell from the rattling around what kind of die is in there.
And you even get the minute tactile childlike pleasure of, I'm prying it open, it's a D20.
Yeah, exactly. It's the exact same mechanics. You're like,
it's like Christmas every 10 minutes.
Do I get a D20 or do I get a D4? Yeah. So I think, and these are undoubtedly pretty cheap. So I think and just the sound of that. Yeah. And the sound of them popping open, we get the very tactile there. So I think that's how you can do dice in a bag building thing. You need a decent sized bag, like your Royal Crown dice bag is going to be a little too small, but you can
just show up with this big shiny black plastic 50-gallon trash bag. Okay, your dice are in there. You gotta pull those out, crack them open. We're gonna have fun.
Hell yeah! Or just get a vending machine and just at the table like that.
I've heard of DMs charge or GMs charging for time, but no, you actually have to put coins into the machine to get to draw the thing out.
Yeah,
and that's how the GM makes bank.
So I think so. Yeah, like if you want to do the dice route, so that's how you do it. So I think that's solvable. It's a little gimmicky, sure, but
gimmicks. People have no love of gimmicks, Ross. Everyone just wants clean, straightforward everything.
Yeah. If you want to do dice, that's how I do it.
I still like my tokens because the idea that you're like, I'm trying to assemble this economy. I've noticed the games I play on my phone and the games I play on my desktop usually have varying competing economies, right? It's like, I got my potions up here and I'm saving those for when I really need them, but I've got the energy that refreshes every round down here, and I can be pretty profligate with that. And then over here, I got the energy that sticks around after every round, and so that I can kind of hoard up a little bit. Whereas the one that the use it or lose it one, I'm blasting that already. So NFTs, my God, please no.
Yeah, we're a little. I mean, one thing that's 2 years too old. Like, yeah, they've all the grifters have switched over to AI now. Like,
I
where
came up with the perfect
Yeah.
diss for NFTs, like
Yeah.
18 months too late. If I'd thought of the phrase, yeah, the guy who took out the third mortgage on his home to buy Beanie Babies at least had something to huddle under when he was sleeping in the back seat of his car. NFT people have nothing.
I literally came up with a whole RPG setting based on making fun of NFTs and blockchain tech. Yeah,
Coin Thing Island, right?
Coin Tract Island. It was like Pokemon, but BioShock. And Andrews McNeil actually like accepted it initially, and then like a month later they said, "Oh, we're not going to do RPGs anymore." I'm like, "Cool." And then everybody switched to AI, so it's already obsolete as a setting. So yay!
But for a shining second, you were the most topical gamer on the internet, Ross.
Yeah. No, the tokens are extremely fungible. That's the whole point. Is that they're all interchangeable with each other. You can fung the hell out of them.
And so here's how you do. One thing I really love to see in games is mechanics where the players where helping someone else really is a good, strong mechanic. I kind of
teamwork
stumbled backwards into a good one with Termination Shock. I'm super happy. I'm super proud of how that works out, because it's like, oh, you have everyone has a harmony die that, is like how well they deal with shifting situations. And if you're helping someone, it's like, okay, they roll all 3 of their dice, one of which is harmony. You just roll your harmony die, and if yours is higher than theirs, you can swap it in. And it's a pretty good deal most of the time. But if you're a character who's harmony optimized, you're like really harmonious, you really love helping people, suddenly it's a lot stronger.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so, I mean, the super obvious way to do cooperation, if we're doing this token system I'm pushing, is I'm going to help James, and therefore we get to swap 2 of our tokens. Or I'm going to really, really help James. I'm just going to give him one of my tokens.
Okay. I mean, so you get the token under certain circumstances, like we were talking about,
to be determined later.
Yeah, well, it's not all the time. You can't just take a token whenever you want. You have to like, it's only a limited window. You're hurt or you're play disadvantage or something like that. That seems to work because again, that's like fate points or bidding.
Well, here we go. Yeah. What if the 3 ways you get tokens?
Okay.
All right. 1, you get a token if you get really hurt. 2, you get a token at the start of every scene, just for fun. 3, you get a token if you screw yourself over playing some disadvantage. And so the GM can be like, oh, are you sure you don't want to go on a heroin binge? There's a token in it for you. Shakes the bag seductively, and the player's like, no, man, I've been clean for you. No, I mean your character.
Well, I mean, for some characters, that's an advantage, like Snowflame here.
How did you just have that ready?
I mean, you mentioned
he never closes that page.
Yeah.
Who the hell is Snowflame?
Snowflame is a DC villain that gets superhuman powers by using cocaine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't that there was Marvel's character Speedball as well, who did not in fact take Speedballs. He was just unfortunately named. Steve Ditko art on Speedball, though. It was very odd.
Yeah.
I digress.
So okay, I like that the circumstances for because that's again a similar thing to like fate points and other meta currencies and that sort of works. Do you want to? So James, I remember you said like having less direct token types, like instead of attack, defend, useful, have something a little more open to interpretation.
I am trying to remember how that worked, and I've completely forgotten.
Okay. Well, like,
it was tied into all the other mechanics of the system, which was based on there was stuff going on.
What if, how about instead of like there's 3 token types, there could be more, but like they're base like superhero tropes. So you have to like figure a way to play into a superheroic trope. You know, like the conflict with allies, like superheroes love fighting each other almost as much as they love fighting villains. Like arguments, like some sort of
because you have to know who would win in a fight between Thor and Hulk.
So yeah, maybe like superhero tropes, and like we should limit the types of tokens, like to like.
What kind of superhero fiction am I aiming for? Is it?
Oh yeah,
which Justice League are you guys? Okay,
Giffen, obviously there is only one.
Yeah, I would say sort of the Marvel comics.
You mentioned the MCU,
yeah, but less the U and more the floppies, and probably from, I don't know. I mean, the ones I've read, though. But the kind where it is a tension between, you know, there's this over here is my superhero identity, and over here is my mere human identity, and they are in conflict. There's this pull between them. And a lot, I mean, I feel like you can play a lot of music on that tight string, but this would be pretty swingy, which I think is more leaning towards sort of the Silver Age Marvel, where it's like, okay, this week he can do X, but next week he's not going to be able to do X, even though X would be the perfect thing to get him out of this problem. And I'm thinking with, you know, the Progenitor setting specifically, which is kind of what made me think of this. You know, it would be very easy to build into there. It's like, yeah, nobody knows how this shit works.
Okay.
Nobody knows why I can punch through a brick wall on Wednesday, but not Saturday. It's just weird, man. It's completely possible that the reason powers are so swingy and unpredictable lies within the human endocrine system. You know, nobody knows why these things work or how. So, yeah. Of course, it's, you know, Thor can get electrocuted one week and withstand the full
they
force.
switched writers, and the new writer hates Hulk. So, okay, how about this?
But what Marvel, indeed?
The tokens aren't even fixed. So, as we're saying, like it changes by writers, it could change by story arc too,
or by character.
By character. So, like, what if at the start of each story arc, it could be a one shot or it could be a multi-part mission, every player and the GM like assigns one of the token types to a trope or to a concept or to a theme, like injustice or you know, fighting dirty or protecting the weak or whatever, or identity crisis. And so like you draw that up, you have to play a token related to identity crisis, something, and you get to interpret how that works. And so it's done by story arc. And so like the tokens aren't even fixed.
My concern is that could be really dumb. I mean, no offense, Ross, but what that immediately makes me think of is, you know, okay, I'm going to play I'm going to defensively play a, you know, a secret identity contretemps token. And, you know, just as he's about to deliver the killing blow, I say, tell Martha wait, Martha? Yep. That name? Which, I mean, do we all agree that was a colossally...
Well, yeah. Zack Snyder. Well, I mean, they're not attack or defend or whatever. It's just like, you know, identity crisis or
okay,
whatever.
But I mean,
so, yeah.
how would you use identity crisis to help yourself in the middle of a fight against Taskmaster, Ross?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. It could be something like maybe my normal identity, or I reminded of like I'm fighting to protect my loved ones. Taskmaster's getting too close, or it could even be against Taskmaster's secret identity, like something's holding him back because he's reminded of like the person he cares about. He sees someone he cares about in the civilians. He's like, I have to go before they see that I'm the villain. Things like that. So. Yeah. That again. Yeah. That's something I think you'd have to be playtesting, but I don't know, James. Any thoughts on this?
Nothing that is forming up into anything particularly coherent. I apologize. I am drinking rhubarb soda, and I'm regretting it.
Oh yeah, that'll mess you right up, James. Someone just commented, Greg has a really expressive face. I wonder what it's like to play bluffing games with. I lose. I'm bad at anything with the bluffing. A friend of mine who was a blackjack dealer once, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast, described me as having every trait of a terrible gambler except alcoholism. He's like, you're very, very expressive face. You care a lot. You get really involved. You take things personally.
Well, okay, so we'll stick with attack and defend and useful for now. But what if there's a token type that's bad, like the GM one?
Maybe.
Like that could be rarer too. Yeah.
There's always one that's in there that's just like, oh, you're just screwed. You just pulled the anchor, son.
Mm-hmm. We had that in Homage to Orwell.
I mean, that's very thematic for an Orwellian game,
But you want that. Oh, you tried this. You gave it your best shot, and no, it went really, really bad.
You pulled the Room 101 token.
Oh no, not the room.
Say hi to the rat. Give him a little kiss for me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, this almost sounds like a sort of mechanics that could be bolted onto another superhero, to an existing superhero game. Like you could actually add this to one roll engine.
I mean,
there's willpower, but there's not much else in terms of a meta currency for it. So, it would be, an extra wild die or something.
I mean, another way you could swing this, because you were talking about having individuals define what the tokens mean. Is that it's, the players define the black tokens are this, the white tokens are this, and the GM's like, but my clear tokens mean this.
Right. Everyone gets one token, and that's what. And then the GM.
But man,
that's what the story is about.
Types as you have players, and that's complicated if you're yanking it out of a sack. Because what I worry about with this, and even with the system that I've got, in my little notebook there, is everyone looking down the menu of, I've got 2 defenses and an attack. What can I get for that? Well, I could do the 2 offenses originally. I could do a double attack. I could do an attack defense. Well, maybe I can force another draw, get another defense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
at the same time, that's kind of fun, right? What do people think? Listeners.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the idea of, okay, you have defined a set of powers that you have, but at the same time, when you amass this economy of different types of tokens, you can assemble these little power-ups, like making card combos, because, people like card combos, and this would give you a little of that energy where it's like, oh yeah, lucky draw, I only have 3 tokens, but they're all attack.
How would you like to handle combo or team up attacks?
Oh, that's easy. It's just like, we'll each pitch in 1 attack token, and boom. Now everything our 3 attacks automatically hit. wow, that would be too strong, though. Even as I say it, it tastes like ashes in my mouth. But there would be a way where, there would have to be a way where you can like, okay, we're gonna pile on together. Each of us is gonna contribute one token to something. Yeah, the fastball special.
Classic.
So someone said that to me feels like a balance between the fun of mechanics and the fun of role play, and I want to know what the "that" in that clause means.
I feel like if you're drawing from a bag, it's not. But this is still a game with rolling dice or whatever. Like, is the bag building the RNG of the game, or is it something you supplement the RNG?
It supplements the RNG.
Okay, so
in
it's like
my original crazy thought.
Okay, so it's something you do like a few times per scene at most. It's a significant thing. Yeah, it's a pivot for the scene. Like
so
the entire
dice would have the dice mechanic that it enhances would have to be super simple.
Yeah. So, but like every time you draw from the bag, it's like a pivot, right? Like it changes the tempo of the scene. Like the dice said, "Oh, the heroes are winning." You draw the thing, aha, complication, or like the heroes are really winning, or accelerating, or the heroes are getting their butt kicked. Aha, it swings back in their favor. Like it feels like every time the bag is drawn or a token is used, it should be a significant thing.
Yeah, I do like that. I mean, well, part of the inspiration from this was, oh wait, let's see. GN puts up a good token in the back. Maybe.
Yeah, the ratios of good to bad kind of has to be based on after we figure out the base mechanic, because like how often you draw and that kind of thing. I feel like, yeah.
Oh, I had I was gonna tie it back to the episode we just did on Suede on Savage Worlds. And
nobody has heard yet.
Yes,
which nobody has heard yet. So here's a little preview. One of the things it talks about is why you want to be like loose slots with the meta currency. They're like, if you give them lots and lots of these, what is the meta currency in that, Ross? It's
bennies.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
we're not gonna spoil that bit. There's a very, very
well, if you're behind the scenes backer, yeah.
very funny bit. But anyway, to get back to the point, kicking and screaming. If the advice is, if you're really loose with bennies, people will use them and that's fun. And if you're really stingy with bennies, people will like guardrail them. And it's not that much fun, and there's not an exchange. And so with this, I do want to have the feeling that, okay, they're not so rare that you're like, oh, something I've heard, I've seen, as a meme somewhere was, okay, this potion is very powerful, so only use it in dire need. Okay, never use the potion. Got it. No, you should use the potion, but you should use it only when it's absolutely no. I'm never going to use that potion. It's too good. I would never use it because I might need it more later. And I'm like, I feel very seen by this because that is how I will. Like, well, I can't use the ultimate neutralizer against Galactus because what if Thanos shows up? And so I would like the tokens to be flowing enough that people are like, oh yeah, I can do this just because it'll be dope. But not so flowing so much that the game loses coherence, where it's like, oh yeah, you're an I-beams guy, but because you have so many tokens, your I-beams are letting you fly and disguise yourself and do all this other crap. I mean, you got to stick to theme. So theme needs to be as important as the token economy, but the token economy can't be just like an afterthought. Am I making sense? I keep asking that.
Well, what if the whole thing is actually more of a timer than anything else? Because one of the things is because superheroes, Usually it's a team of heroes or multiple heroes against one villain. But if the heroes are drawing these meta currencies and letting them do these cool things, then they're probably going to kick the villain's butt. So what if every time any hero draws a token, the villain gets to draw a token? And so it's the same, and villain's by himself, so he's using all the tokens for himself. So he can still, Magneto can put up a fight against all the X-Men because he can do so many more cool things individually than all the X-Men. Each X-Men can do one cool thing versus Magneto's, 5 cool things. And when you run out of tokens, the scene ends just on whatever note it was on. So the GM just says, well, we're out of tokens.
Ooh.
Magneto wins.
This is very different. Yeah, I mean, the thought that I had was, I mean, you could have something where, when the bag ends, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so as people are in there, the players are going to be like, guys, there's only 3 tokens left. We need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But the other thing I like about amassing tokens and having them do different things is that it provides a natural escalation throughout a session. Because when you start out, it's like, I don't have any tokens. I'm left just zapping shit with my eyes. After you've been through a little bit, it's like, I've pulled up some tokens. So now I can disarm this guy. I can blast the gun out of his hand defensively instead of just, boiling his brain inside his skull. Which I'm reluctant to do because of the smell. And then by the time you get to the climax, it's like, okay, I got like 6 tokens in front of me. So my options are very wide. And do I want to do a bunch of cool little things, or do I want to do one big fuck off?
What? I don't think you should be able to hold on to them very long.
Really? Because I love the idea of holding on to them.
I think holding on to them, but for a limited time. So you are forced to use them. You can't just hoard them like the very special potion.
I want the players to have the freedom to either be the, I'm going to keep it moving and do a bunch of cool stuff, or I'm going to save it up. I'm going to be the chump for the first 2 acts, but in the third act, I reveal my true quality and save the day because I've been a token Scrooge the whole time. That feels like a really meaningful choice to me tactically. It's like I'm choosing to play loose, fast, fun because I'm just that kind of guy, versus I'm playing very strategically and I am trying to gather the resources I need to be super effective at the end.
Yeah, because that heroes lose like 3 or 4 fights in a row before they finally defeat the villain, right? Like you're just so yeah, but then you kind of need to think about the whole token economy of the game. Like,
oh no, math.
Yeah. There's that as well, running out of the physical tokens.
Yeah. So
I would also think about, I'd take a leaf out of the mobile games that you were talking about playing on your phone. I would keep the tokens kind of probably for each fight, so you can stack them up within a fight, but at the end of the fight it's zeroed. I might also put in a level of jeopardy for holding on to them, a push your luck mechanic, so that yes, you can take more, but the more tokens you've got in your hand, the higher the chance that you're going to lose some or all of them. The specific mechanic that comes to mind here is the hand limit in Catan, where if you've got more than 7 cards and the bandit gets rolled, you lose half your cards. So it's not crippling, but it feels like a punch. And it does encourage you to keep keep playing elements of your hand, not just hoarding cards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the villain has an ability that the fix is, there's a maneuver that costs you half your tokens. And so if you only have 1 token, that ability does nothing to you. But if you've wived up 9, well, kiss 5 of them goodbye, or 4 of them goodbye.
Yeah, I do know, like in Fate, like pacing more satisfying to win with a big blowout move. A lot of times, like in Base Raiders, the way the villain powers work is that my player characters would face a villain they couldn't scratch normally with an attack. Like the villain's armor or toughness was so high, and their offensive output was so low comparatively that they couldn't. But what they could do is spend a bunch of fate points and do a bunch of aspect maneuvers to give a bunch of stacking +2 bonuses to one attack until their attack, they were rolling 4 fate dice +12 or whatever, and so they could knock out the villain with one ridiculous attack, doing a combo and teamwork, and just spending 6 fate points on one attack between all 3 players. So that can be fun. But I think the hoarding thing, if that's off balance by some sort of like bandit or like something, like if you can't just walk around with all these tokens, it'd be a real shame if you got mugged for all that meta currency.
Kvetch Eternal here has just put a very interesting idea up there, which is, okay, you get a token. Are you going to put it in your bank account or your wallet? And if you have it in your wallet, you can spend it this scene, but you'll lose it at the end of the scene. And if you have it in your bank account, you can take it out for a later scene, but you don't have it right now. That seems to me, I mean, it's odd. Released is saying it's odd, but it's at least clean and straightforward. It's a binary choice. Oh, I've got a token. Do I put it to the side, or do I keep it with me here? Which I
feel like that could even be
I don't want this to bog down into tactical paralysis and the classic gaming problem of 30 minutes of fun packed into 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, well, hold on, let me consult the list of what this particular power lets me do with 2 attacks and a defense. So I don't want it to be so complicated that everyone is constantly clamoring around reference documents to find their optimum move.
Yeah.
Which may also be a function of not having a lot of tokens. If you have a lot of tokens, it's like, oh, I remember there was this move and it takes this, so I've got that. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the difficulty. The bank and wallet thing sounds like something like for a rules expansion, like some sort of meta, like superhuman. I already thought it. I did 35 minutes ago, kind of thing. So I think you need to worry about getting the base. Like, does a scene work with these tokens? So it's often easy to lose physical items like tokens on full flow RPG. The thing is, like, I really want, personally, it's just like, I want there to be a bag building RPG and like with some sort of bag building mechanics. I think it's such a cool game mechanic. It just, it's one of those things.
Talk to me about bag building mechanics from board games that you've enjoyed.
The big one is for me. There it is. Quacks of
Quedlinburg.
Quedlinburg. I'll pull up the board game geek.
Wolfgang Warsch. It won the it didn't win the Kinderspiel. Nominated for, can't remember, the kids version. I think won the Kinderspiel. But yeah, which is Alchemists brewing stuff up. Very push your luck.
It's very
stuff goes in the bag.
These are all the tokens. Yeah. Go on.
Okay. So are there any dice?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So
it's all randomized through the tokens. So
okay.
See, there's the bags.
The bag.
And
the bag.
Every player gets their own bag. There is no
no common sack. Okay.
So what you do is you start at every round you're seeing how complex, like you're going around in the spiral, right? And you start at 0, and there are some tokens in your bag that are good. And these ones on the right, I think they're called popcorn. These are bad. And if you get like 4 or more points of popcorn, your round's over and you just score where you are. But all the others, and so you have like you start with 2 or 3 points and then like 4 of the basic ones, which I think are green or white. Okay. Yeah. And so you earn victory points by drawing good ones, and your round ends when you draw too many bad ones. Or you can choose to stop early and like not suffer a certain penalty if you didn't explode, if your potion didn't explode. But in between rounds, you can earn currency. That's the little number on here. So like the big number here, 20, is victory points, is what you would get if you landed there at the end of your turn. And the 5 coins is what you could spend to buy new tokens in between rounds to add to your bag. And
okay, and the colors of the tokens are significant, so that if you get all of one color, that's good.
Here we go. Here's one example. Your first place yellow chip is moved 1 extra space forward. The second, 2 extra spaces, and
Got
3.
it.
Yeah, and so as you go along, this is the victory point board, and there's like modifiers on things. It plays a lot
simpler
easier
than it looks.
Yeah.
It's been a big hit. It's
okay.
I didn't take to it personally, but
all right.
I have friends.
Can y'all give me a minute? Sorry, I gotta get back. This will be quick. My apologies.
Well, we can. James and I could talk. So yeah.
Sure. I can talk about another random. It's not a bag building one exactly. It's a bag drawing one, and it's the diametric opposite of this. It's a kids game called Go Away Monster.
Okay.
And every player has a little board that has 4 spaces on it, which I think is their bed and a bedside lamp and door and something else. Pillow could be, or a teddy bear. And there's a bag full of cardboard tokens. And on your turn, you draw a 1 token out of the bag. And if it fits on the board, you place it on the board. But if it's a monster, you throw it into the box and shout, "Go away, monster!" And this is a brilliant game for the very small. And it's surprisingly, I thought I was going to hate it very quickly, and actually played it for my kids for months. It is not as easy to throw as you think it's going to be. You think, oh, as the grown-up, easy, I can not lose this because I will just choose the piece that is obviously a monster because it feels differently. No, there are a number of the monster pieces feel like the pieces that you're actually looking for, and vice versa. Plus, I think there's a time limit. You can't just root around in the bag. You have to draw quite quickly. And, so it's not just pull something out of the bag. It's search around in the bag for the thing you're looking for and think you found it, and you pull it and you go, no, this is not what I thought it was. And then the shouting, throw away monster and throwing it into the box is just brilliant, cathartic fun, and really helps small kids get over the fear of monsters under the bed.
Oh. Brilliant game.
But the bag building mechanic the bag mechanic is really simple. But I think hits all the high points that a bag, that kind of random draw from a bag, does really well that you can't do with a deck of cards. There's an element of you're actually searching for something in particular. It's not blind luck. You draw, there's the hope that you've got the right thing. There's the intentionally taking the wrong thing. The size of the tokens. It's really nicely done. And I think if you're doing a bag-based mechanic, something like that, where you can draw, hoping that you're drawing the thing that you really want, rather than just it being blind luck, just being a randomizer, there's a lot of potential to do other things with the bag, or more things, having things of different shapes, different sizes in the bag, things that you think are going to be a safe draw because, the little round ones are always safe draws, except some of them aren't. And then, of course, you've got, there'll be different versions of the little round ones. There'll be different colors or different things printed on whatever it is. So, I was talking about a kid's game that really uses the bag drawing mechanic really well, Greg.
Okay.
Does clever things with different shaped pieces.
Because, again, the tactile element.
Element.
For our gamers, it's going to be, I got to find that D8. Although, while I was away from the mic, the thought that occurred to me is that, okay, if you've got dice of different sizes and you want to vary it up and you're doing bespoke pieces, bespoke components, you can have, this D8 goes from 1 to 8. And this D8 has 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. And this D8 goes from 7 to 16.
Yeah.
And this D8, it's all, it's got 3 8s and then a bunch of crappy stuff. And this D8, but then the drawback to that with that setup, you would definitely want it to be a low flow of draws because people are going to need to see what they got. It would give you that, again, the Christmas morning thing of, oh man, I got the D8. That's 3 D8s and 5. That's 3 8s and 5 1s. What am I going to do with this? I gotta find a situation where I'm, at the ends of the bell curve.
Yeah.
And then, I got the D8 that's just all 5s. Well, I got to save that for when I need a 5.
So
and it would become really, really, again, we're running into the risk of decision paralysis. And where if you don't have complete confident system mastery and haven't played it for 60 hours, you're going to feel like an idiot.
Oh yeah, Mario Party does do that. Like different characters have different setups on their D6s. Like one will roll nothing but like 2s or 3s, or like one will have 1 6 and blank, so you don't go any. So it's go big or go home, basically. Yeah, that's quite fun. Now I think, I mentioned it kind of a joke, but like the Gacha stuff is I'm telling you, man, that is pretty. Let's see if I can pull it up again. There it is. Like we get these castles, you could put in a little thing with like, you could put in cards, you could put in tiny, like, here's your new superpower, here's your new ability, here's the new game mechanic that your character gets, a new spell or whatever else.
What the hell is an ultimate nullifier? Oh
yeah, exactly. Ooh, super rare pull. Like, yeah, get that addictive thing in there, man. You could add in like that. You do this expansions, like people are trying to sell bespoke dice and decks. Like, man, you could sell 1 million of these little capsules, and that I think that's the future.
There was 1 year, I want to say probably about 1998, 1999, when Dragon Dice was at its height. TSR, as it was back then, had an enormous bubblegum machine at Gen Con selling rare Dragon Dice in Gashapon spheres. And I got 1 or 2 while being watched by Lorraine Williams, who are the head of TSR at the time, because the hall had technically closed. It was the Sunday evening. It was the first time I'd been able to get away from the booth. And she had a weird, this is completely random. She said, have you had a good show? I said, yeah, we've had a really good show. That's good. We want everyone to have a good show. And it was just, that tone was just very, very odd.
Are you being sarcastic or threatening?
I don't know. There was just something not entirely human about it.
Wow! Ouch!
My only exchange with Lorraine Williams. No, it was odd. It was odd. It was kind of, I am a creature of numbers. Not somebody who's had a really good show myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. That's entirely random. But, I have to get a name drop in.
That's what the live streams are for,
the contract.
Stream of consciousness. Let's see here. If I confess my mention has been damaged by a certain delightful game in that I was trying to mention how things could go catastrophically wrong, unspeakably. That's how game design works. Like you have to prepare for the worst case scenario. You have to prepare for the rules lawyer, the person playing in bad faith, that kind of thing. So let's see here. I had a Legend of Five Ring character, had a scorpion tattoo, gave me great advantage, but made me speak like Lauren from TSR. Terrible. Sounds like a Doctor Who baddie.
There was an element of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Odd.
So, Greg, I think, hopefully this has helped somewhat.
Yeah, we'll feel. If nothing else, it's good exercise for the old brain.
Because I really think a bag bit, like there's a place at the market for a really cool bag building. But the core of bag building is about like it's randomizing, but like you get to determine like what the odds are, or you have some control over it, and the odds change every time you pull something or add something to the bag, so it's never static like a die would be. I think that's really interesting.
I was not thinking of it as a bag building game, other than for the GM. But yeah, the idea that a player's like, oh, I don't need this. I've got all these attack tokens. Can I put 2 in and pull out another one?
Yeah.
And now I can, I can trim this up so that my buddies over there who don't have any attack tokens are more likely to get one.
I mean, you can make a token heavy game and make it all about tokens. Like the dice rolling thing is just very basic, like just a D6 pool or something like that, like Rhesus. And then just you need the tokens for that secret sauce that to really I think just get some poker chips in a bag and start playtesting, or at least running some exercises. Yeah. Because it's there. I think there's something there. Yeah, you just got to figure out the exact ratio. But like
figuring out exact ratios is not my skill set.
Well, but like I think the one thing is that for sure it's not something you do every action. It's like a pivot on the scene in some way. It's like escalating things in the scene. So I think that's a pretty good assumption to work with, because that makes it special as opposed to just rolling dice. So it's more like something everyone's paying attention to what token gets drawn. I think that's the kind of thing you want, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've coming in here hoping that we would boil this down to, this is the way we could do it. I have instead we've produced like 5 different ways you could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is game design. This is how it works at the
US. You expected us to do your work for you, Greg.
Man, yeah.
Well, once you get something to playtest, I'll be happy to do it. We can do it through Tabletop Simulator or something like that to represent the bag.
Okay. Does Tabletop Simulator support?
It can. You can do whole ass games of Warhammer 40K. It supports everything. Like
to say so you could do a tarot card based game off it.
Oh yeah. Tarot cards are another thing I wanted to make a game about, and I've tried a couple of things, but nothing's really clicked.
Remind me to show you Gates of Ivory.
Yeah, the fugue system as well that I did.
I played one session of Las Vegas, but I couldn't get the exact same 3 people, together, because you need you need those exact people.
You need the same people.
Yeah, and that's kind of a scheduling problem. Yeah. So one day.
The biggest challenge of this game is, of course,
I can get 4 people. Are they going to be the same 4 people each week? No, of course not.
What do you have any idea how insane you sound right now? The same 4 people every week?
I have enough friends that I can rotate them. In fact,
there must be games designed specifically for it's going to be a different bunch of player characters every time, despite the fact that there may have just been a jump cut between the end of the last session and the start of the new one.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that would be a fun way to do something with an established property, like, I don't know, say the MCU. It's like, oh, hey, guess what? You're Hawkeye this week. Man, I was hoping last week I got to be the Hulk. When this week you get to be Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet that's how
some weeks you're the Hulk. Yeah. Some weeks you're Hawkeye. Yeah, and also, who's in the Avengers this week?
And honestly,
got the time off work to turn up. Yeah,
it depends on who's the lead of the week. Hawkeye's comics, he could fucking dunk on the Hulk depending on who's writing for it. So that's all. That's a real. I spin a token to have the writer like my character. All right, what happens? Yeah,
I liked the Matt Fraction sad sack Hawkeye.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, so.
Hulk, we don't have to do this.
Oh, you drew Garth Ennis. All your characters are going to get dunked on. I'm sorry. He hates superheroes.
Yeah.
Anyway. But we're over an hour. So,
okay.
Thank you all
so much. One.
Yeah, that was good. So
I mean, I don't know that we accomplished very much.
I think we did. I hope we helped you there.
I hope so. We certainly got a lot of fascinating ideas just sort of flung at the wall. So we'll just see what sticks.
Brilliant. Yeah. You need to put everyone who commented in the credits, Craig.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, well, thank you all so much for watching, for hanging out with us today on the Saturday. And I'll put this up on the RSS feed at some point. We have recorded Savage Worlds. Delta Green Convergence has been edited. We'll get the show notes done. James will get the show notes done, doing an excellent job of that. And then we'll get it out to backers on the RSS feed. And then Heart will go public sometime early in July because it's been a while.
Everything's just rolling.
It's like we're keep going, and we'll schedule.
It's like we know what we're doing.
Yeah, we've been doing this long enough. We've got,
It's like Ross.
It's sunk
knows what
in.
Ross is doing.
After Savage Worlds, we're doing Night's Black Agents Double Tap, our first supplement, and that'll be fun to check out.
That.
Yep, it's a very interesting supplement to
come up with supplement questions.
Yeah, we do have to do that. But yeah, we'll be talking on the Discord. And if you are going to Gen Con this year, please, in our meetings, I'm setting up a Discord server for fans of Ludonarrative, Dissidents, and our PPR to sort of coordinate to get together for games and hanging out and all that good stuff. So let me know if you aren't on that Discord. So yeah, I'll be coordinating things for all our fan base there, because we are doing some events at Gen Con, or at least I am. And Caleb Stokes of Delta Greed and Red Markets. So yeah, thank you all, and we'll talk to you later. Bye. Cool.